Forge is absent. Commissioner Leeson.
Here.
Commissioner Letts. Here. Commissioner Long.
Here.
Commissioner Watson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the September 28th meeting? And are there any additions or corrections we need to worry about?
Looks good.
We have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from September 28th.
I'll second. Moved and seconded. Do we need to do a roll call on that, or?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed. New business. Item number 1, presentation of transportation master plan by JEO.
Yes, Commissioners, the city procured the services of JEO after going through qualification-based request to look at a transportation master plan for the city. We've discussed this a little bit in the last few meetings that this was coming. They're here to talk about what their services are going to provide, and ultimately, you know, you guys will be a part of this role in adopting this plan at finalization and including it in our comprehensive plan. So Brad is ready to talk to you about what JEO is doing for the city.
Please state your name for the record.
Yeah, Brad Shores, JEO. I'm out of our Wichita office, and with me is Jim Tabata, kind of the star of the show. So he's at our Topeka office. I am the project manager for JEO on this project. Long held an interest in El Dorado and advancing it and helping it just kind of become what it wants to be. But the guy to my right here is the traffic and planning expert. So he's been decades in this business, respected, former employee at KDOT. You didn't know I was going to be talking about you.
No, I did not.
Served in major planning roles and traffic roles for KDOT, and has continued to do that on the consulting side. So just want to talk kind of high level. We might repeat ourselves a little bit. We're fairly early in this project. We have been selected by Scott and the city of El Dorado to do this transportation master plan, and just want to make sure we're communicating what this is going to accomplish for the city. It is to give you an outline for the next 25 years about what is the condition of your network today, and then what are the needs and expected improvements to move you forward for the next 25 years. And it's not just cars and trucks, it is multimodal, it is biped, so it's your entire transportation network. And we're going to talk more about the specifics on what this can do for the city. So this is kind of straight out of our scope document with you, and we're kind of in that first bullet right now. We're analyzing, Jim's team has pulled traffic data, we have that, we're coming over it now for the city. We've identified 20 of your, let's call them highest risk intersections today. You have a number of documentation that has been done in the past, and you have ongoing studies right now. So we're doing a deep dive on all of that, and making sure we understand what's been done today, and trying to understand what the condition of today is, so that we can move forward. The second red line there, stakeholder input, we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but part of that stakeholder input is what we're doing today. One of the next steps on this project is to develop goals, objectives, and action steps. We've already kind of got a preliminary framework of what normally occurs on projects like this, but there's always specifics and nuances to the local jurisdictions. So we're going to be working with Scott in the near future to do that. And Jim's can talk about this some more. You know, we're going to analyze today, but we're also going to evaluate, you know, what happens if you do land some significant industrial development in the northwest part of town. You know, what does that do to the network, and what needs to be done in the network to make sure that we are accommodating the needs of that increased traffic. And so we're going to look at different kinds of alternatives. We're not going to just focus on industrial development, although that's a key component, just in growth in the city as a whole and how people are getting around today. And then what we also want to do is let's let's make sure that we're not just kind of throwing out, here's a project, let's put construction cost budgeting numbers to it, and let's start thinking about what that would look like as it affects your annual CIP that you're developing. You know, how can we start being proactive now to prepare for the future that El Dorado wants to get into? And all of that is going to result in that last red line there, which is the Transportation Master Plan, which is a document that you have. I'm sure you'll have a hard copy, and obviously you'll have a digital copy as well. So stakeholder engagement, we are meeting with City Commission next week, meeting with you this week. And then we've got a scheduled slide later on that we'll talk about, but I'll go ahead and kind of talk through it right now. We're thinking January to March timeline of doing some kind of significant public outreach activity, and we're trying to figure out what the best way to do that is. And so we're working on those details right now. We're working with our dedicated public engagement people to think through that. We want to do the challenge in our world, and Scott probably knows this very well from experience, is you can do public engagement to check a box and say you've done it, or you can try to do public engagement where it's meaningful and you get real input. And then you can do public engagement where the public might be trying to guide technical conversations, and that's really not. In other words, the public shouldn't be making the technical decisions. We should be educating the public about the technical side, and then they can give their input, and their input is meaningful, and we take that into account. I hope that made sense. So what I'm trying to say is there's a right size and way of doing public engagement. We're thinking through how to do that on this project. And then I'm really kind of speaking on a future slide here, but I think it's okay to talk about it now. Overall timeline, we're planning on getting a draft plan to the city in May of 2024. And then we're going to meet with you again in June, and you'll have had a chance to review it, give us your input again, and then we will move on to the final plan. The intent is to have that completed in July of 2024. So that's kind of the overall schedule, and I won't have much to talk to on the schedule slide when I get to that later. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim.
All right. Thanks, Brad. As he mentioned, one of the things we're doing is reviewing a lot of the other documents of the city, like the comprehensive plan, to see where those documents should feed into the work that we're doing. So the comprehensive plan does talk about transportation, and I guess kind of want to just confirm with you all, the comp plan focuses on arterial streets and collector streets, and that's really what we're doing with this transportation plan as well. It talks about preserving right-of-way. We'll certainly look at that. But it also talks about multimodal strategies, the importance of like bicycles and pedestrians. And I would like to hear from the commission your thoughts on, not just focusing on cars and trucks, but is there a desire to see something a little more robust for, say, bicyclists in the community? I have seen a couple of examples, Bentonville, Arkansas, and then, which is a city of about 50,000 people. They started building bike trails, and it honestly has transformed the city. It has drawn a lot of people to come there to use those trails, which in turn has supported businesses and restaurants and everything. Crosby, Minnesota, which is a little town of about 2,300 people. They also are by a lake that has a lot of trails. The change in that town over the past 5 years has been incredible with the new businesses that have come to town. It's all based upon bike trails. So that kind of opened my eyes as to what that can do for a community, but I really wanted to hear your thoughts. Is that important to El Dorado? Do you not think it's not as important? But if you could give us just some thoughts, I would really appreciate it.
So you want some thoughts at this time?
Yeah, I would love to hear
Sure.
from you all.
So I'm very familiar with Bentonville, Arkansas. It's a wonderful museum down there, Crystal Bridges.
Crystal Bridges, yes.
So I've seen the bike paths. I do feel it's different than our city because they have Alice Walton, who is one of the richest women in the world.
They have some good support.
And sure, that's $1 billion plus
Yes.
museum they have. And so in terms of just my thoughts off the top of my head, I think it'd be nice to be able to navigate downtown. I'm not really sure if out in the other parts, I mean, we do have some bike paths already. I don't know that they're heavily used. Personally, I don't know if it would be worth the money to extend those. I don't think it's a fair comparison between us and Bentonville, Arkansas, because of the philanthropy in Bentonville.
And that is kind of why I wanted to bring up this. We go up to this area every year, and I've watched this little town change.
Oh, it is absolutely gorgeous. I've been there many times. Yeah.
The one in Minnesota?
Bentonville.
Yeah.
Bentonville.
Yeah.
So the Minnesota one is a smaller community, probably doesn't have the philanthropy support that the Waltons provide in Bentonville,
But what caught my eye was just some of the similarities up there in Crosby. You have a series of small lakes, mountain bike trails. Kind of got that same thing going on here in El Dorado. So
We do have some people who are working on trails that are also expanding. I believe there's a gentleman that actually lives in El Dorado. And what is his business in Wichita? Bicycle peddler?
Yeah, there was an article in the Eagle last week about it, but we were just, I was visiting with Brad and Jim. You know, we hear a lot of interest in biking and ped facilities from, you know, various surveys that have been done. You know, the comprehensive plan talks about it. And just, so they're really just trying to garner some, how significantly should we look at it? So they're going to be looking for feedback, same as the public
Sure.
engagement meeting.
So I guess to continue on that, I would, some of our grade schools are not served very well by bicycle routes, even in cases like sidewalks such as Blackmore Elementary could really use some sidewalks. And to me, if we're going to put in something that's going to cost money, let's serve the schools first, and everything else to me would be secondary or tertiary. Right now, to get to Grandview Elementary is we redid Country Club Road and paved it 20 years ago, Scott, probably 20 years ago, and we do now have a bike lane, but to me, it would have sure been nice to have a sidewalk that kids could walk on. The city was very gracious and used sales tax dollars here this summer, and they created, actually there was a local citizen who gave some of her property up and created a shortcut that allows kids from the northern part of town to actually cut through, go up by the high school, and then come back. So that would be my position, is let's serve the schools first. I'm not really sure if I'm thinking we should spend a bunch of money on the outer parts.
Well, I think that there might be a definition difference here, that we need to possibly define the difference between what we currently have as far as what we in town call the bike path, which is a completely paved giant sidewalk that, you know, goes out to the El Dorado Lake and back by the spillway, which is used a lot. Mostly, I think, from what I've seen, people going for a walk with their dogs or family or something, just for some get out and whatever. A little bit on the biking, but I don't see as many bicyclists doing that as I do people walking. People use it all the time. But is there a difference between what I would consider a trail, which would be a non-paved bike right away for people to, I guess, mountain bike, be out one with nature, versus which would be way less expensive, obviously, except for regular maintenance of mowing or whatever it is that the city would have to do, versus we've got to put in 2 miles of sidewalk and incur that concrete expense. So I think that that would be a difference. Plus, if you did the trail aspect of it, how you incorporate that into something that would be, I guess, worth riding through for that, experience to be out with nature while you're on a bicycle or something like that. So, I can see that might draw some interest of use for our town, and or maybe bring some people from the outliers to come this way to utilize that if it was done right. I just worry is like Steve was saying that money's always going to be the object that we'll have to look at, and that would be the defining thing that I think would sway public opinion as what it's going to cost.
We do have some dedicated bike path, and Scott, correct me, we had phase 1, phase 2, and we never got around to phase 3. Is that correct? Am I saying that correctly?
Yep. And there will be a distinction, one side you're looking at more recreation type facility, and the other you're looking at the movement of people.
Right.
To places like churches, schools, libraries.
So are you gentlemen talking about both, or just the?
Our focus would be more on the transportation mobility side of things. But because Scott's exactly right, a lot of times bike paths, paved paths are built more with recreation in mind. Like where I live in Topeka, there's Lake Shawnee, and they've completed the bike path around there. And lots and lots of people come out to use that bike path now that it's complete. So to some, and if you try to take that transportation, sometimes it's kind of like a chicken and egg type of thing. If the facility's not there, you don't have people trying to get out and use their bikes. But if they have a safe facility, you will tend to see people come out. I spent a fair amount of the day in El Dorado today driving around. I did see a number of bicyclists using sidewalks along Central, so there's at least a few people out there that are trying to make use of bicycles for
Yeah, I think there's quite a few. I bicycle a little bit, and I see them, and I use those paths.
Yeah. But you're right. There are kind of two different ways of looking at it. For recreation or for transportation, we would be looking a little more at the transportation end of it.
I'd say helping grow maybe residential development in the Main Street area, or looking at making it easier to ride a bike in downtown. And get from downtown to, say, Butler County Community College or the schools would very much help that.
Well, I don't think we currently have anything downtown that is, other than a sign, a place that somebody could secure a bicycle if they were to ride it downtown.
I think that would help grow the
that
development of the
it's
residential.
prohibitive right now if somebody doesn't want to lose their brand new
Yep.
bicycle if they don't have a place to tie it up somewhere. And we don't believe
Don't we have
have.
those black things, one of civic groups?
The Rotary
For
Club
bike?
put up some of them up along, they're on the frontage, so.
Bike parkers, and they look like a bike.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
look-
look like a bicycle where you chain your bike to them.
Yeah, that's for bikes.
Is that it?
Yeah, we have,
There's a couple
Half
of
a
those
dozen.
around. Yeah.
Is there? I
On-
guess I'm having
yeah.
them there.
yeah.
I'm oblivious to it. I don't see them.
So with that, and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, we're getting ready on our Main Street, which you probably should know, is we're putting those bump outs, right? Like down by Willie's. And would that affect anything where we could add some bikes, something?
We've talked to him briefly on that, and really what JEO's focus at this point has been, we're very, very early on this, and it's been data collection, and the data has been more driven on the vehicular, commercial truck traffic movements in town. So we know there's gonna be other things that pop up, other thoughts, ideas.
Okay.
And we're gonna get in this public engagement process and be able to include those, but, going into this, I think staff was very aware pedestrian safety and biking were something we needed to look at. Something that never really had been looked at outside of, by a third party, with schools in mind, with these other destination places like Main Street and the community college. So we'll definitely be talking about those, and they'll have more information as we get a little further along in this process.
So maybe to wrap this up and move on, so we're not here taking up all your time, I think what I'm hearing is, we don't want to just write a blank check and think that El Dorado is going to become the next Bentonville, but there are targeted connectivity improvements that could really benefit the city that you guys do think is worth looking at. Is that a fair?
Sure.
Yeah.
So would be like a smorgasbord you'll present, and the city can pick out what they want to do out of your program, or?
I think Jim, you chime in, I think we're going to identify critical needs, opportunities for growth. You're not committed to anything in that report, but there will be recommendations from an engineering standpoint about where can the city invest going forward to make it better.
My recommendation would be to improve the walking facilities downtown rather than the biking facilities. I think we have plenty of biking facilities without spending more money on them. I mean, we have the bike path, we have to the lake and behind Dillon's and all over town. I think we need to improve the sidewalks for walkers as much as we do bikers. I see more people walking downtown than I do biking. And we have these bike security things in front of town. I never see a bike tied to one of them. I mean, so I don't know how much biking goes on downtown. And I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time or money on them. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I would say improve the sidewalks for walkers rather than bikers.
All right. Appreciate the input. There's a number of other studies we're going to be looking at, pulling information into what we are doing, and one of those is certainly the ongoing K254 study. There we're looking at maybe the east end a little bit on land use, certainly looking at travel times, because that's a heavy corridor to and from the city as far as commuting goes. Let me just go through a couple of here. There's the interchange study going on right now. They're kind of the interchange that ties into Boyer Road, so there's been a lot of work done kind of forecasting future traffic in that study and taking a look at maybe how to connect a city street system to the turnpike. So that is certainly something we're taking a look at. And then kind of all of the develop El Dorado information, the properties that are out there that have potential for development, how can transportation support that economic development and support those properties better. Just a little bit on kind of the next steps and where we're going. And I guess one thing we wanted to do too is touch a little bit on goals and objectives, and again, get your input, your thoughts here. But I mean, these are kind of generic goals that tend to come up on most of these studies, but maintaining and enhancing mobility, keeping traffic flowing, improving safety throughout our network, having the road network support economic development. And then, we've brought up funding because sometimes it's easy to get money to build something new, but you got to keep in mind we've got to maintain that for the future. So maybe just quickly kind of get your thoughts on those goals. Are there others that we should be thinking about as we start this study? Or kind of like, I guess, starting out with mobility, that tends to be one that's important. Are there areas that you think you have maybe a big concern? I mean, is Central Avenue the biggest concern, or is it Main Street? Or kind of maybe give us your thoughts on how traffic flows in the city.
If we land one of those big businesses someday, 6th Street, in my opinion, is going to be a problem. 25 obviously, okay.
Yes, yes. It's not supposed to add really anything, so.
Any more questions for her? Okay, thank you. Does anyone else want to talk about this subject? Okay, I think we can close the public hearing on this. Discussion by the commissioners.
Scott, I'm just gonna ask you one more time, if I'm on that corner and I'm making a right-hand turn, that light's not gonna impede what I'm able to see?
We will work through with that on the permitting process.
Okay.
So,
Anyone else? Well, how about a motion?
I move that case number 23-016-SUP, a request by the El Dorado Senior Center Incorporated for a special use permit to allow a digital video sign on the property located at 210 East 2nd, be approved for reasons stated forth in the staff recommendations and heard at the public meeting.
Is there a second?
I second.
Commissioners, have been moved and seconded that we accept this. We're going to do a roll call.
Commissioner Fellers.
Yes?
Chairman Hackler.
Yes.
Commissioner Leeson.
Yes.
Commissioner Letts.
Yes.
Commissioner Long. Yes. Commissioner Watson. Yes.
And have they been informed of the next step?
Yeah, the third Monday in November, City Commission will consider it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioners, item number 3, case number 23-05-REZ, public hearing for the consideration of request to rezone 1126, 1128, and 1204 West 6th Avenue from R3 multiple family dwelling district to C1 general business district. Mr. Rick.
Yes, Commissioner Mike Durrell has submitted this application looking to rezone these 3 lots along West Central Avenue. Currently, within along a corridor where you see a lot of commercial type uses and industrial type zoning along the north side of 6th Avenue. West of 6th Avenue is primarily where you see the residential. The applicant is here if you should have any questions of him. Staff does feel that this rezone fits within the area. So you also have a public hearing to open on this as well. Staff did hear from one property owner within the 200-foot buffer around these 3 properties. And the concern of that property owner was how it would impact their property taxes. There should be no impact, and that's really a county function as well.
Okay. Mr. Durrell.
Sure.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, good afternoon. Michael Burrell, 1410 Court, El Dorado. So I'm the one that purchased the property, wanting to turn it to a commercial lot. I also own Superior Auto Care, and we're currently expanding as we move forward there. And so, of course, the shop to the east of me is a smaller one, and that's where I keep some of our storage for business, as well as my collection of cars that I enjoy. So I'm hoping to put a building on this lot that I can store some of our shop items and items for Superior Auto Care, as well as my personal toys and cars. I don't know the exact size yet. I've still got to get out there and do some measuring and figure that out. But that's what I'm looking for, is to rezone it to a commercial. And obviously enhance the area, as well as hopefully in the future, I'm going to build it as if, if I was to ever sell it, that it may be a beneficial business to somebody, or a building that would be beneficial business location.
I'm having trouble understanding why it's happened to be rezoned a commercial, just to put a storage building there, if he's not gonna use it as a commercial business.
This is how the activity he's envisioning.
Okay.
So any residential zoning, be it the R3, the highest, to R1, the primary and major purpose of it is someone has to reside on the property. So you can just take a residential property and build a shed on it to store stuff. Someone has to reside on that property.
And I think the other piece of that is the size of the building, right? I mean, in a residential, you can't build certain height and certain size.
Sure. And there was dilapidated homes that existed there, so, kind of cleaning that area up as well.
You bought 3 lots and you're gonna build put one building on 3 lots.
Correct. The county's already on the GIS mapping, they've already turned it into one property.
Okay.
I still have to get come up with one address, but yes, it's one property, or I'm gonna make it one property.
And you don't have dimensions yet?
For a building?
Yes.
Not exactly, I'm thinking somewhere 60 by 60 approximately, a rough number, and then hopefully, again, I haven't designed it yet, but my plan is to make it to where maybe it can be expanded, one wall where you can remove one wall and expand it if you ever wanted to. But it's kind of my thought process is somewhere around.
You'll have one driveway to this?
Correct.
One in and out?
Correct. Currently, there's 3 drives there right now,
Yep.
but my plan would be just to have one.
It says you're gonna put fencing along so that it's not letting up against the residential.
Correct.
Sometimes screening or a fence or
I
something.
think there's some regulations there, correct?
Creating that transitional buffer between the residential, so the mobile home park and the commercial property, if it is used on, so.
Any more questions for Mr. Durrell? Thanks, you.
All good. Thank you.
This time I'd like to open the public hearing. If there's anybody present who would like to speak on the matter, now's your chance. That looks like no, so we'll close the public hearing and discussion from the commissioners.
You had one objection to it, is that right?
Was it an objection or a concern?
No, it was just a question about how does it impact their taxes. No, just more seeking information, and anytime we hear from any one of those individuals, we want to report it to you that we heard from someone within that buffer.
You say in here the future land use map designates this property as commercial. So are we planning on that entire area kind of in the future becoming commercial instead of residential at some point?
Yeah, commercial mix. Really, you have the mobile home park, and then you have a bunch of commercial as you get closer east to like the railroad tracks. And then west of this, you see a lot of commercial type uses and industrial uses all the way on out to really the west city limits on the north side.
So this could be the start of something nice out there for commercial.
And we've had some cases where, and I apologize, I didn't remember the eye doctor, but I think it's Smith Optical, we built
Yeah.
new. That was a case that was heard by the planning commission. There was maybe one other development along there. But to see that shift on 6th Avenue, it's a principal arterial in our town, lots of traffic. And definitely that north side being more commercial based, industrial based.
I think the project fits.
Anyone else?
No, I have no objection. I think it looks fine to me.
I would entertain a motion.
I'd make the motion. I move to approve case number 23-05-REZ, an application by Michael Durrell to rezone lots 12 and 13, Block 1 and lots 12, 13 and 14, Block 3, El Dorado Business Park from I-1 Light Industrial District to R1 Low Density
I think
District. Yeah, that's reverse.
Yeah.
That is reverse. I'm reading that going, that's not right.
Do you have the last meeting's agenda?
I think you got the last part reversed. It should say,
It should say from R3.
right,
To C1 General Business District.
yeah.
Do I concur? I mean,
That's
If
what
I'm
it
looking
says
at
in
your
the minutes.
agenda, if I'm looking at your agenda, yeah,
Yeah.
which is the motion to approve, isn't
Yeah.
exactly the
Does
same.
everybody have the right
And it's
motion?
based off the agenda, you're right.
Well, I'm looking at the wrong wording. Does somebody have the wording correct?
it is case 23-05 rezone, 1126, 1128, and 1204 West 6th Avenue from R3 multifamily dwelling district to C1 general business district.
Kind of just say ditto, or we actually need to read it.
I'll second it, whatever. He has it. He said it right.
Okay, here we go. Let me try it again. And I'm still looking for it.
Right there on the bottom, dark print.
No, that's just,
Here, Steve, you just read that,
Okay.
just like that, as a motion.
okay. Motion would be item number 3, case number 23-05 REZ, public hearing for the consideration of the request to rezone 1126, 1128, and 1204 West 6th Avenue from R3 multiple family dwelling district to C1 general business district.
Second.
Thank you.
Commissioners, it's been moved and seconded, and we get a roll call.
Yeah, Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Letts,
Yes.
Commissioner Leeson,
Yes.
Chairman Hackler,
Yes.
Commissioner Fellows.
Yes.
That item will be considered on November 20th as well at the city commission meeting.
Thank you.
Oh, you talking about city commission?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, moving on, we're at old business. Continue public hearing to consider amending the sign regulations in Article 8 of the zoning regulations.
Yes, Commissioners, I think I have crafted from the input from our last discussion and discussions prior, kind of what you all envisioned of this temporary sign regulation looking like. Some major parts of it are the removal, no permit is required. There's no limitation on the number of days. There is a limitation on the number of signs per property. 2 in any commercial, industrial, institutional type property, and 1 being at a sandwich board only and C2 downtown. Then the other items that we discussed prior, like designating what an event sign is and how long that can be out for a special event, as well as inflatable signs and how long those can be out. But basically, the vinyl type signs, the flags, the banners, this would allow them to exist on properties, no more than 2, no permit required, no cost required, but that they specifically must be maintained in good order, they don't cause a traffic hazard, those sorts of things.
Can I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
You know, there's apartments out there in front of Butler Community College, and they have those temporary signs lined up along the road. Would this take care of maybe the eyesore that those cause? Because I drove by those again today, and I was just, instead of watching the road, I was looking at all the different signs.
Sure.
So that's
Sure,
why I was wondering.
that's something that would be enforced on this.
Okay.
And so they wouldn't be grandfathered in.
No one would be grandfathered in, temporary signs are temporary signs.
Okay.
I think maybe we would start working with individuals that maybe have 3 or 4 vinyl signs plastered on their commercial property today and just tell them, hey, come in compliance, you're only allowed 2, but get away from the whole permit process, the whole, they're only allowed for 30 days or calendar days, this, that, or the other, just waiving that and just saying, you as a property owner want to advertise your business, be responsible about it, maintain them in good shape. And we just put some height restrictions, number restrictions, that sort of thing.
Is there anything different about an inflatable sign, or did we just miss the permit fee on this one? That's the only one that has a permit fee, that's why I was wondering if there was anything special about them.
We thought about that one just because there would be a permit required for them.
Okay.
You know, I think we're thinking those are more like a 4th of July 10 or something, or new business coming, something that we know, hey, it showed up, and now we're gonna count the days.
Okay.
But really, we don't see those.
I don't see those a whole lot, right?
Big gorilla out at the fireworks tent maybe, or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the type of thing we were thinking,
Yeah.
you know, if the potential of something like that show up.
Okay.
So I hope after public input, property owners, business owners input, what we were able to achieve to get, that what's before you tonight is something that's crafted that you feel comfortable with sending on to the city commission for their consideration of adoption.
One question, I read through this like 3 times just to make sure that I was vaguely familiar with this before the meeting. And one of my questions that kind of propped up in my head was, does the city allow for, if there was some kind of, I can't imagine what it is right off the top of my head, but if there was an extenuating circumstances where a business would like to apply for, I guess, a special use permit to have more than one sign, if it only says they can have one for some specific reason, that they could really delineate, maybe come before us or something. Is that a process that's available to someone, or is this just the way it is and there's no variance on that?
I think that would be, you know, it would be difficult to manage. It'd be, why is my function or my business different than what this guy's business or function could be?
Okay. We just see an awful lot of P stuff in here, and I didn't know if that was anything that was considered
Yeah,
in the city.
I think that would be tough. I think that'd be cumbersome on the person that wanted that sign. I mean, an SUP is a
Right.
2-month process, basically.
And obviously, this is only about temporary signage. This isn't for anybody's permanent signs.
It's a good point, it's temporary.
Yeah.
What is a temporary portable display sign?
So think of that's like the sandwich type boards, or that's
Something on
something that's
wheels.
brought in and out every day from a
Okay.
business.
That's not the
Some
kind,
of
it's
these-
not the kind they push out and they put the letters on it, hang the letters and the numbers on it, like it's 4 foot by 3 foot.
It could
Is
envision
that-
something like that, or like,
So that they can leave those out year round?
and it's
There's no-
considered part of their temporary sign as long as it's not in bad shape and it looks decent, it's not displaying a vulgar message, those sorts of things.
I didn't understand that. What was your answer? They can or they can't?
So a temporary portable, the intent of what that is something that a business would bring in and out of their, you know, daily. That's more the intent.
They can be carried or can be pushed?
Yeah.
It's not sitting out there on a stand. That's what I'm talking about. One that they may put out there on a stand and leave it for any length of time.
Well, that could be another type of temporary sign.
Yes.
That could be considered, yeah.
So there's no length of time. They can put those out and leave them? Oh.
Have you seen some?
Yeah, I've seen some.
I think the
I don't think they
main,
were, but
I think the main difference is what Scott was saying, that there has to be, where we're loosening up regulations, that there will be a time period anymore, but you have to maintain them. They can't be something that this used to have tires on it, and it sit out here for so long that the tires have rotted off of it and it's sunk into the ground, so that almost turns it into a permanent signage that would
Yeah.
have to deal with some other
Yeah,
project.
when does it become, when does temporary become permanent?
Well, I think that's,
Your permanent would say it needs to meet very specific sizes, heights, it needs to be landscaped.
then that would be something that's regulated through the compliance officer, wouldn't it?
And that's regulated
Yeah.
under your regs today.
Okay.
All we're focusing on is on the temporary.
Temporary aspect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Commissioners, anything to add to the comments on this?
So we are leaving the $10 permit fee for the inflatables then.
Yeah, and that's up to you all. That's a recommendation of you all, and what you're doing tonight is making a recommendation to the city commission after you reopen the public hearing. We think this is what you should consider for adoption.
I'm okay with the permit fee. I mean, we've talked and tossed this around, I don't see reason to change it now.
I agree with it.
Okay.
Anything else before the public hearing? All right, I'd like to officially open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone that would like to speak on the subject? Name
We almost done it one night.
and address.
Nice, right?
Mike Dorrell, 1410 Shell Court. I think the recommendation's actually perfect. You know, we have a compliance officer that handles lawns not mowed, buildings that look bad, whatever the regulations are. I think that's handled. I don't think we need to, you know, set a standard for a certain amount of days, because we know what our business is and we want to be able to advertise certain times of the year. So anyway, I think you're on the right path. I think it's a great path to go down, and I think it, just like you guys said, if you see one with tires that are flat, then that's where we address it with the compliance officer. So anyway, appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
This guy looks familiar.
Name and address for the record, please.
Brad Meyer, 2012 Chelsea Drive. I echo what Mike said. I think a lot of work with staff has gone into this to come up with something that is fair and equitable for small businesses. I've said before, and I'll say it again, everyone's advertising budget isn't the same. So I may want to put more money into my business and buy a big fancy LED sign that blinds people as they drive up and down the street, although it gets the message across and I can change my message. I think staff's done a great job of putting this together and coming back with something that was reasonable for everyone. So thank you very much.
I would personally like to echo what Mr. Meyer just said. Like I said a little while ago, I did read through this starting at about 4:30 this afternoon to be really familiar with it before I came in. And it looks good to me. I mean, I think you guys have done a lot of work on this from where we started and the discussions we had early on this. It looks pretty comprehensive in my opinion, but.
Yes, Scott, and make sure you thank your staff because I'm pretty hard to please and I thought it was very, very good.
Thank you. And it was a long process, and I apologize for that, but really, when you look at doing something like that, we really need to seek as much input as possible and get the public involved. So thankful for your understanding that there is a process, and because it not only affects the two gentlemen that spoke here tonight, but it affects everyone in town. So that input's critical.
Anything else by the commissioners? All right, well, I guess I'd entertain a motion to refer this to the city commissioners. I don't think there's anything written out on it.
There's just a motion to refer that temporary sign regulations to the city commission meeting
As written.
as written.
A second?
A second.
Commissioners, it's been moved and seconded that we refer the temporary sign regulations referendum, that was as written. We get a roll call on that?
Yes, Commissioner Leeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Letts,
Yes.
Chairman Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Fellers,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Long.
Yes.
All right. So passed. Next, staff items. Mr. Rickard.
Yes, at the, your next meeting, the only item we have planned is a special use permit. Got too many papers here in front of me, and I have to get the address. For 424 West Central Avenue. That is a property that they are requesting a special use permit for transitional housing with that existing structure there. So, really getting a lot of details from the applicant right now, but property owners will be notified within a 200-foot buffer. There will be notification on city website, like we've started doing the planning commission here lately, and as well as publication in paper.
Next meeting's 11/16.
Yes. Because of Thanksgiving, so yeah, heads up on that.
That's what I was wondering
Yeah.
about.
So, Scott, one thing on that in the public notification is I actually was at City Hall today and I was trying to find the link to the housing study. And I had a visit with a person and they told me, go here, go here, go here. It was a matter of 6 clicks and I said, that's too many. So I would maybe ask you the same thing as I asked them is when you guys put it on there, it's hard to find sometimes. So maybe some sort of link or something that's easier to find than 6 different clicks.
I can visit with them. Another good thing, if you talk to folks, or I know some of you all are signed up as well, you can get on the city's website, put in your email address and click, hey, I want to be notified of these certain type of things. And when meeting agendas are posted and things like that, you will get an email so you're aware of what's going on.
I was just really thinking of older people have a hard time with computers anyway, so, yep.
Yep.
Scott, just out of curiosity,
Uh-huh.
is, well, I call it Pauline's building, but this property in question for the next meeting is, what's the current zoning on that? Because it was R1 back in the day, and then it went
is zoned
C1
commercial.
for Pauline's Flower Shop, so it's currently C1. I didn't know if things changed since the church had purchased it or not.
It's either commercial or office institutional,
Okay.
which allows it to be applied for by special use. So there's no rezoning involved, it's just a special use permit for that parcel.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, we have something to look forward to in a couple of weeks. I would move, or entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Anybody? We got a second?
I second.
We're adjourned.